Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Marissa Price. I am a Black woman social worker sharing knowledge, tools, and resources, all to help you heal, understand, and expand. And I'm so glad you're here. In this video, I want to talk about the cycle of change, which is a clinical social work model created by Prochaska and DiClimente. It kind of walks you through the 6 steps of change and what you should be prepared for as you're embarking on a major life transition or just any change in your life, so that you can kind of see where you are along in the process and be prepared for what might come next, and also be prepared for those natural moments when you'll experience regression. Thank you for watching. So this model I was actually introduced to by my therapist last year in March 2022 when I restarted therapy after experiencing a major depressive episode. And this was due to just the chaos of life, the trauma of the pandemic, the violence in the United States as a Black woman. Just all of it really compounded and led to me experiencing depression in March of 2022. So I ended up, restarting therapy. Thankfully, I found a really great therapist, which has not always been the case for me. And I'm sure if you have tried therapy, you know how difficult sometimes it is to find someone who is aligned with what you need, what you're looking for, and who is really, committed to your growth. Sometimes that can be difficult in finding a therapist. So luckily I found a great therapist this time around, and she introduced me to this model. And just a side note, I actually wrote about my experience last year, experiencing depression and then ultimately taking a career break. So if you want to read more about that, I'll link the Medium article in the description. But getting back to the cycle of change, this was really helpful when I was going through what I was going through, just to see where I was. It helps you visualize, right? When you're in the middle of such a big change, and you feel like, some days you make so much progress and some days you feel like you're back at square one. It can feel really defeating sometimes. So just to have this to look at, to visualize, like, oh, I may be feeling this because, I might be in the relapse phase. But guess what? You can always come back around the cycle. So all hope is not lost. And even if it doesn't feel like you will get to your goal, eventually you will. I believe in you. It is just a matter of trusting the process, trusting yourself, and knowing where you are in the cycle that really helps, I think. So the 6 stages of the cycle of change are pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, and relapse. And if you're looking at this model, which I'll link in the description box, you'll see in the middle of the model, it actually says upward spiral. So, and then it also has a little note. So the hope is that you learn from each relapse. So just seeing that, I know that may make some people like a little uncomfortable, just knowing that you will relapse, but you will. Anytime you make a huge change, you're building new pathways in your brain. This is not an easy thing. You're unlearning so many things. You're shedding so many things that no longer fit. This is not an easy process. So there will be moments where you relapse. Just, it's important to be prepared for those and to not blame yourself, because this happens to everyone. You're not alone. Okay, so let's start at the first phase of the cycle. So this is pre-contemplation. So in this stage, you don't have any intention on changing your behavior. So you may not even be aware in this stage that a problem even exists. You're kind of just new. You're operating the same way you have always operated. And you may have an inkling that something feels a little, off, and you want to make a change, possibly. But you just don't know where to start. So you just kind of keep going back to what you've known, to what you have been doing. The second stage is contemplation. So you're aware a problem exists in this stage, but you don't have a commitment to action yet. So awareness is really a key first step in just recognizing that there is a problem, there is an issue here, there is something going on that's affecting your well-being, And that is important to acknowledge, because with awareness, right, comes the ability to then take action to address whatever problem you've become aware of. So that's an important step. And this may be a stage where you kind of go back and forth. You're contemplating, well, if you kind of weigh your options, right? So if I was to take action, maybe this would happen. Yeah, you kind of toy around with it in your mind a little bit at this point. But you have an awareness that it might be time to make a change at this step at least. And the next stage of the cycle is preparation. So this is when you begin preparing to make that change. You start to get the plans in order. If you're talking about, leaving a job, which I'm in the process of doing, maybe ending a relationship, maybe starting something new, right? This is a time where you're getting all of your ducks in a row. So you're intent on taking action in this phase to address the problem. This is important because you're committed. You are now committed. You've made it past the pre-contemplation stage where you didn't even know a problem existed, to the contemplation stage where you knew the problem existed, but you were kind of going back and forth on whether you were really ready to even start to solve the problem. And you've made it to the preparation stage now where you're preparing your plans to make that transition, to make that change. That is something to celebrate. The next stage is action. So you actively modify your behavior in this stage. And this is the part, I think, where, living in this society, we jump straight to that phase. When we're talking about major life changes or any change at all to your life, right? Just get right to action. But looking at this, we know that there's 3 steps before we get to action. So those are all normal. And remember, it's normal to go back. So you can be in the action stage. You can actively be, checking items off your plan, getting things in order, doing the thing, going back to school, you've left the job, done. And then you might slide back to contemplation, which is completely normal again. You might slide back to that contemplation, even after you've taken the action. Fear might creep in. Fear is one of the things that kind of keeps us stuck in places that we know that we've outgrown. So you might be back in that contemplation, kind of being like, do I really need to keep doing this? Did I really, you might question yourself in this phase. Know that that's normal. This is part of the cycle, right? Again, the hope is that it'll be an upward spiral, not a downward spiral. So every time you make it to a new phase, even if you go backwards, you have more information. You're not the same person that you were because you've already been through the previous steps. Okay, the next step is maintenance. So you have a sustained change. The new behavior replaces the old. This is often, for me, in my experience, when I'm going through a major change, this is often the most difficult. Because it can be exciting to do all these new things, take the action, but the maintenance is really the boring part, right? The maintenance is really where you have to commit to keeping that change going, to trusting yourself, to trusting your process, to, if you've committed to a new habit, to keep doing the habit every day. And this is the phase, I think, where a lot of people relapse. A lot of people go from maintenance back to preparation. So let's say if you started a new habit and you stopped doing it for a couple weeks, you may have to go back to the preparation stage and prepare when you're going to try again, when you're going to start again. Because we know your goal is achievable. Whatever you want to get to, it is achievable. But relapses are normal part of the process. And the last stage of the cycle is relapse. So it's a whole stage. So this means it's something to be prepared for. Completely normal. So you'll fall back to old patterns of behavior. Like I said, when making a change, you're literally rewiring your brain. This is not easy stuff. You're building new pathways, new neural pathways. So naturally, you're going to want to go back into what feels comfortable, because we're wired to not seek out fear, like fearful situations. We're wired not to do that. Um, and we're also giving the messaging not to do that, to stay in what we know, to stay in what feels comfortable, to keep doing it, even though we know that we've outgrown it, even though we know we need to do something different. It's so difficult. So this stage, be prepared to fall back into the old patterns. But guess what? Once again, I'm going to say it again. The upward spiral is what we're talking about here. It doesn't matter if you relapse, because guess what? You have more information. You have completed, you have gone through all of these steps. So it's normal when you make so much progress one day and then the next day you'll feel like, I'm back at square one. Know that you're not, because you have so much information, so much more than when you started. You have so much practice in doing this. So yeah, please don't beat yourself up. Don't take on self-blame. Please don't. I know this is the stage of the cycle where it's easy to get into those feelings of self-blame. To, the shame starts to creep in, like, I went through all this, I took action, and now I'm relapsing. It's okay. It happens. It happens to all of us. That's why there's an entire social work model on it. Because multiple people, many people over time have experienced these same things. So you're not alone. But yes, so this is a cycle of change, again, by Prochaska DiClimente. If you have a second to look at it yourself, maybe a helpful visualization if you're going through a major life transition or a life change, just to see where you are in the cycle, to prepare for the next steps that might be coming, to get excited about those, and also be prepared for the relapse, right? Because that will happen. It's a natural part of change. And to see the progress that you've made, let's say if you're at the action step, you didn't just jump to the action step. You had to go through 3 other steps. You started at pre-contemplation. You didn't even know a problem existed. You're not where you were. And I have so much hope that you will, get to where you want to be, that you will accomplish what you want to accomplish, get to the goal that you want, and just know that relapses, going backwards, feeling like you're not making any progress some days, that's normal. There's nothing wrong with you. But I hope this helped. If it did, feel free to leave me a comment, like this, subscribe. I hope to be putting out at least 1 video every week going forward. And I'd love to have you here. But thank you so much for watching.